Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. We'll start with a statement from the Secretary General, and then we'll have time for a few questions.
Thank you, and good afternoon. This morning, the North Atlantic Council held consultations under Article 4 of the Washington Treaty. This followed a request from Estonia after their airspace was violated by 3 armed MiG-31 fighter jets on Friday, where NATO responded quickly and decisively. Following the meeting, allies issued a strong statement of solidarity and resolve. They condemned Russia's reckless actions, which are escalatory, risk miscalculation, and endanger lives. Allies affirmed yet again that our shared commitment to collective defense is unshakable. We do not want to see a continuation of this dangerous pattern by Russia, intentional or not, but we stand ready and willing to continue to defend every inch of Allied territory. Our posture on land, at sea, and in the air is serving us well. Our pilots are doing precisely what they are trained to do when there is a potential risk of incursion. This is what we plan for, what we train for, and it works. General Krinkovic, NATO's Supreme Allied Commander, has the tools and authorities he needs to ensure our defense. And Eastern Sentry, which he and I launched earlier this month, adds further strength and flexibility to our posture along our eastern flank, and anywhere else we might need it. Allies also continue to exercise to ensure that we are ready for whatever threats we might face. Even now, the largest aircraft carrier in the world, the USS Gerald R. Ford, is in the neighborhood and exercising with allies across the continent, reinforcing our ability to operate together across domains and over distances. This long-planned defensive exercise, unrelated to current events, is highly relevant to our availability and ability to do what NATO was founded for, to deter and defend. This is what we will continue to do, with calm determination. And with that, I have time for a few questions.
All right, let's start with AFP here in the second row.
Secretary General Olivier Beau from AFP, Agence France Presse.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. After what you said and after reading the statement issued by NATO today, does that mean that NATO is going now to shoot any manned or unmanned Russian aircraft which violates the alliance airspace? Will it be enough to deter Russia? I mean, the statement you just made, do you think it will be enough to deter Russia after this pattern we all see after 3 incidents?
Well, the decisions on whether to engage intruding aircraft, such as firing upon them, are of course taken in real time, are always based on available intelligence regarding the threat posed by the aircraft, including questions we have to answer like intent, armament, and potential risk to Allied forces, civilians or infrastructure. And as I said, SACEUR, our Supreme Allied Commander, has the overall prerogative and responsibility and also all the possibilities. In the latest airspace violation we discussed today in Estonia, NATO forces promptly intercepted and escorted the aircraft without escalation, as no immediate threat was assessed.
All right, fourth row, all the way on the end.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary General, you mentioned in your statement pilots can act in case of a potential risk of incursion. So not in case of an incursion, but a potential incursion. What do you mean?
What I'm saying is that our military system works like this, that we will always assess the dangers, whether it is a direct threat to our overall defense, our posture, and that we will always act accordingly. But in this case, there was no immediate threat assessed. So what happened is that Swedish, Finnish, and Italian aircraft were active to make sure that these 3 MiGs were moved out of Estonian airspace.
We'll come to the center here in the second row.
Hello, Joachim Clementi from Estonian Public Broadcasting. My question is, aren't we fundamentally addressing the wrong issue? As you said yourself, that in both cases, in Poland and in Estonia, NATO's air defense was effective, everything worked according to plan. So why, in terms of Eastern Century, are we then talking about strengthening our air defense? Isn't the fundamental question about why Russia even dares to, whether intentionally or not, to breach our airspace? Shouldn't we be moving assets to the eastern flank which pose a credible threat to Russia? I mean, we're a defensive alliance, but for deterrence to work, they have to believe that if they cross a line, we will also counterattack. So my question is quite simple, really. Is the alliance prepared to scare the Russians to make these things stop?
Of course, but we always have to do that in a way that we assess the situation. And our air defenses did exactly what they are designed to do. Both in the case of Poland with the drones, as in the case of your country, Estonia, with these 3 MiGs. We reacted quickly and decisively. We brought together, as I said in my statement, about 10 days ago now, Eastern Sentry, which will help to basically strengthen even further our deterrence and defense on the eastern flank and also in other parts of NATO territory where necessary. And of course, as we also said in the presser here about 10 days ago, we are constantly learning and adapting our technology and our tactics based on the evolving threat landscape. And that includes drones. So one of the reasons why we launched Eastern Sentry is to make sure that these latest drone technologies and that long term it is not sustainable to take down a, let's say, 1,000 or 2,000 costing drone by a 500,000 or 1 million costing missile, so that you need your drone interceptors also at the level we want it to be, is part of Eastern Sentry. And we're working very hard to make sure that also there we learn from, for example, Ukraine through JTAC, based in Poland. That is the joint NATO-Ukraine organization where we basically capture all the lessons from the war in Ukraine, but also through Pierre von Jay, who is leading our Supreme Allied Command transformation. And he works very well together and closely together with our Supreme Allied Commander Europe, General Krinkovic, to make sure that not only do we have the deterrence and defense on the eastern flank, but we also implement as quickly as possible these latest drone technologies.
All right, on the right behind the cameras, please.
Thank you. Ansgar Hase, German press agency, DPA. Secretary General.
I'm here. Hello.
How do you assess the influence of previous events, such as the destruction of the Nord Stream pipelines, on NATO's current decision-making? Would it be, in your view, easier to respond more decisively if events like this had not happened? Thank you.
I don't understand the question, because when it comes, of course, to the critical undersea infrastructure in general, we launched Baltic Sentry. And Eastern Sentry, of course, is a separate activity now, bringing together many allies, but also taking all the lessons from Baltic Sentry, which was about after the latest events happening on the 25th of December last year between Estonia and Finland. We brought together that activity, and why? Not only to make sure that we are able to track and trace and where necessary to intervene, but also to implement the latest technologies, including undersea drones, etc., including bringing together our best experts in both modes, so shape, but also our Allied Command transformation under the leadership of Pierre von Jay. And that's exactly what we are doing here with Eastern Sentry. So we are taking lessons from that and we are implementing this with speed.
Coming over to this side, Reuters in the third row, please.
Thank you, Secretary General Andrew Gray from Reuters. Are you, as part of reviewing what happened the other day, going to look again at rules of engagement, or are you confident that they are fine as they stand? And following up a broader question, NATO, at the heart of NATO is the idea of deterrence. At the moment, it seems like deterrence is not working because Russia is undertaking these incursions. So do you need to do anything more in order to make your deterrence more credible?
Well, I think what the Russians saw is that we are willing indeed to defend every inch of Allied territory. It's exactly what happened in Poland when a Dutch F-35 shot down Russian drones. But also when it comes to Estonia, where thanks to the Finns and the Swedes and the Italians, we were able to escort these 3 MiG-31 out of Estonian airspace. And our message to the Russians is clear. We will defend every inch of Allied territory. We will make sure that we can always defend and deter where necessary. We are a defensive alliance, yes, but we are not naive. So we see what is happening. And whether it is intentional or not, if it is not intentional, then it is blatantly incompetence. Of course, even if it is incompetence, we still have to defend ourselves.
The 4th row, the gentleman with his hand up there, 5th one in.
Thank you very much. Antonio Fumagalli for Neue Zürcher Zeitung. Hi, Secretary General. A question, sorry, I'm too close. Is it politically wise to invoke Article 4 now within a couple of days twice? Because of course you are sending a signal to Russia, a signal of nervousness maybe, and this will be listened like this in Russia, of course. And the more practical question about the incident in Estonia, what can you tell us about the Russian fighter jets? Were they armed actually in this moment? Thank you.
Well, to begin with your first question, I think these 2 Article 4s are both warranted. And it had to do first with the impact of the drone threat to Poland. This was a multiple amount of drones, so this was different from some other incursions. So I think it was totally clear that the Polish government had to invoke Article 4, and I think it was very useful. And also here, when it comes to Estonia, last Friday, when you look at the location and the duration of the presence of these MiG-31 in Estonian airspace, I think it is absolutely warranted that we had this Article 4 consultation. But let me also make very clear that our Supreme Allied Commander has all the authorities he needs, that this alliance has all the capabilities it needs to, whenever the Russians, whether it is intentional or not, but blatantly, be it incompetence, but at least being reckless and being irresponsible, try to invade Allied airspace, NATO airspace, then we will react. They know, and we will defend ourselves. There's no doubt.
The woman in the 2nd row.
Thank you. Susana Freires, SIC Portugal. You were mentioning a promptly response from NATO, but don't you think that 12 minutes of a MiG-31 flying around Estonian skies is too much? Was it that fast? And you say that if there's a direct threat, NATO will respond. Does it mean that in that case you can shut down whatever is needed, as my colleague from AFP asked? And if I may, regarding what happened in Denmark, do you see any connection with these threats in Romania, Estonia, and Poland? Is there a link with